Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you for a little video just talking about my thoughts about relatively recent news that, well, by the time this video is uploaded, well, I don't know when I'll publish it, but recently I discovered this news, and I don't know when this video is going to publish. Maybe I'll publish sooner than later, I don't know, but anyway, at any rate, discussing the relatively new news that I recently discovered, which honestly, being a huge fan of the film that came out this year by the name of In a Violent Nature, my favorite horror movie in quite a long time, my favorite horror movie probably of the 21st century, and definitely my favorite movie of 2024. This news is actually kind of cool. I'm actually all for it if the original guy, the writer-director of the original does it, of course. I mean, obviously I can only assume it's him. This was very surprising news, which is, I hope this ends up, following through and ends up becoming a reality. But this is really surprising because my thought was this movie, or the In a Violent Nature, didn't necessarily do all that well and was mostly, it's just a lot of mixed reviews, and honestly, just based on all the trash I heard about it and people not liking it, I was really surprised to hear this news, which is basically a sequel has been greenlit, from what I understand, which is very, very exciting for this In a Violent Nature fan, and how's about that? And I was, thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, okay, so when this news broke, it was like, late July, early August when this news broke, and it's just like, okay, there's not a whole hell of a lot. It just occurred to me today. I'm just like, there's not a whole hell of a lot of summer left if it's just in development. But then so are they going to film this summer? Are they going to wait until next summer? And then it occurred to me, well, who says that they got to film it in the summer? And this kind of goes back to something else, which has been like something that's been discussed for a long time, maybe a decade or more, among Friday the 13th fans, is there's been so many Friday the 13th that take place in the woods and stuff, and it's always during the summer, or supposed to take place during the summer, and there's never really been an official Friday the 13th that took place in the winter. Well, that occurred to me, well, hell, maybe they'll do a complete 180 with the sequel, and maybe they will do it in the winter. And how would I feel about that? I mean, as much as I prefer these kind of go into the woods and, stalk and slash to take place in the summer, I mean, so many exist that take place in the summer. So honestly, the more I think about it, I think it'd be a really, really kind of a cool touch if the sequel to In a Violent Nature was actually done in the winter to completely change things up, might make things really kind of interesting. And since the first one takes place in a beautiful lush green summer setting, how cool would it be if the sequel did take place in the winter? And the more I'm thinking about that, like I said, it just occurred to me today. Like, I knew about this news of the sequel being in the works for a couple days, but it just occurred to me today, because it'd be a shame if they had to wait, a whole year to shoot it, and then it ain't going to come out until who knows when. But then it occurred to me today, well, who says they're going to do it in the summer? And I kind of think that'd be a really, really cool direction for them to go with the sequel, is to take place out in the out in the woods in the winter. And obviously, about the only thing about like a sequel that I would be less enthusiastic about, obviously, is if they took it to the city, or into the suburbs or something. I wouldn't be too open to that. Like, In a Violent Nature in a high rise or in the suburbs or something wouldn't necessarily appeal to me. But if you're gonna do it, wait until the third or fourth movie, and do the second one at least in the woods in the winter. I think that would actually kind of really be interesting. Or if they, if it's in development now, maybe they can get it written. So I don't know, it'd still seem kind of a rush, but they might be able to get it figured out to shoot in the fall. Maybe you could have the second one take place in the fall or something. But at any rate, this is all just speculation. I just wanted to stop on by to do a video just letting you guys know, if you don't already know, that In a Violent Nature is at this point, or at least when I'm doing this recording and publishing it, getting a sequel, which was just really, really surprising to me, because as much as I love In a Violent Nature, my thoughts were that it wasn't, a lot of us liked it out there, but there was a lot of people that didn't like it as well, and I just never would have imagined that this movie would have, or that movie would have ever gotten a sequel. But I imagine it was relatively not that expensive to make, so I mean, I'm assuming it made back its money, obviously enough to warrant them, going forward with the sequel. So feel free to let me know what you think. Would you be open to, the sequel taking place in the winter, or maybe fall would be cool? Maybe the sequel could be in the fall, and then the third movie could be in the winter, or something like that. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I mean, as much as I'm all for, in the woods in the summer and stuff, there's so many of those movies that maybe it'd be kind of cool if they did this in the, in the winter. But at any rate, I guess we'll find out sooner than later. But there was a part of me that was kind of like, worried about it too. Like, oh God, in a way, kind of how like at the end of the original Halloween from 1978, how when he looks over the balcony and he sees Michael gone, like how much. Every time I see that, I'm like, how cool would it be just if that was the only Halloween movie, and there never was any sequels, kind of a thing. And I kind of felt like, part of me felt like that about this sequel news to In a Violent Nature, like, oh man, like, what are we going to do? Just keep making these until they run, themselves out of ideas. And, so it's like, I'd say it's like 80 or 90% excitement about the sequel, and then another 10 or 20% like, oh man, like, can't it just be one and done? But I mean, like I say, if it's the writer director of the original, which I can only assume it is, I'm pretty high hopes that, what he can do, or what he do with the second one would be, hopefully just as good. The thing is, like, if the first movie, the thing that's so cool about it was like it was so fresh, like, wow. So the thing is, if he does that same kind of fresh take, as cool as it will be in like a second movie or more of it, it's kind of, well, it's not going to be it can never be as fresh, because part of the first movie's greatness, in my opinion, was that it was, such a fresh kind of a take. And, if we do the same take on a second movie, it's like, okay, it'll be cool, but it's not as fresh because we've already experienced. It's kind of like, Jurassic, Lost World, Jurassic Park, where it was like, to see the dinosaurs come out of the, brush or whatever wasn't such... It's like, wasn't so much of an ooh-ah moment because we've already seen it in the first movie, kind of a thing. So, but more or less excited for this news, and it's rare these days, pushing 50, for this movie fan to actually get excited about an announcement of a movie, like especially like a horror movie or any movie, the announcement of a movie being made. So I'll be kind of more or less, I guess, watching this and seeing what ends up developing. Like I say, it'll be interesting. Yeah, pardon me, interesting to see when the hell this ends up coming out, and let's just cross our fingers that, like I say, I mean, I guess I'd rather just as soon it be something that follows through and ends up happening than it doesn't. But if something goes wrong where it doesn't end up happening, I mean, that's kind of okay too, because then you just get your one and done or whatever. But I guess that pretty much does it with this video. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are about In a Violent Nature 2. It was something that was very surprising. It's like, okay, I guess this movie did enough business where, and not enough people hated on it where they're gonna do a second one. So I'm all for that. Let me know what you think. Would you just as soon have it take place in the summer? Are you open to a winter? I know I'm pretty sure some like Friday the 13th fan films, if they haven't done winter, they talked about doing winter. I'm not really a big fan of watching the Friday the 13th fan films, but I know it's been a topic talked about for probably a decade or more in the Friday the 13th fandom among the fans of the franchise, about when's the Crystal Lake in the winter, or Jason in the winter woods gonna happen. So yeah, Will In a Violent Nature 2 take place in the winter? Time will tell. What do you think? Guess that pretty much does it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.